Hi, it's Liz from G Mum's Place again, and I'm here with Love Swept number 883. Sight Unseen by Lynn Emerson, published in 1998. Okay, here's the synopsis. His words had won her heart and soul, but who was this man she'd agreed to wed? Chase Forster listed plenty of good reasons to marry Leslie Baynton: her intelligence, their common interests, the understanding and compassion she showed him, a virtual stranger. But did the lady really want to be his email order bride? Falling for a man she'd never met was a little bit crazy, but as soon as she heard his warm, deep voice, Leslie traded logic for an instant family. Wooed by computer and full of hope, she ran to his arms. But would their sudden marriage work? Brimming with intriguing possibilities and more than a few surprises, Lynn Emerson's latest novel plumbs the pleasures of courtship and the intricacies of a merrily modern marriage. He thought he knew her better than any woman he'd ever met. But when a tender caress taught him volumes about his bride, could he be certain it was love? Love Swept, stories you'll never forget by authors you'll always remember. The first paragraphs. "You need a life," Carol said. Leslie Baynton set her teeth, conjured up a smile, and controlled the urge to throttle her older sister. "I have a life, thank you very much." "This?" A sweeping motion with one hand dismissed everything in the cluttered apartment, including Leslie. "It suits me." As a defense, the words lacked punch. Leslie didn't entirely believe them herself. She knew from experience that nothing she said would change what Carol thought anyway. While the older sibling prowled, looking for something else to complain about, the younger perched tailor fashion on her overstuffed sofa and braced herself for the next volley of criticism. At 47, Carol Marsden Salisbury looked sleek and trim in expensive off-white slacks and a coral silk blouse. Leslie managed to contain a sigh, reminding herself she didn't really envy her sister's looks and sense of style. She glanced down at the worn blue fleece that covered her form from neck to ankles. When she was 10 and Carol 20, Leslie had been in awe of her sister's sophisticated beauty and had tried to imitate everything about her, from clothing to mannerisms. Carol could have been a high-fashion model. She was that lovely and that perfectly proportioned. Leslie had inherited the same flawless skin and blue eyes, but there the similarities stopped. Carol was a stunning blonde. Leslie had been obliged to settle for a sort of sand colour. Her teen years had brought thick glasses, braces, and a bra size that was, to say the least, disappointing. And she stopped growing at 5'3" instead of reaching the willowy height needed to be a model, her earliest career goal. Still, she hadn't turned out so badly, and she'd come to prefer loose, comfortable sweatsuits like the one she had on now to designer clothes. She'd found better things to do than waste an hour every morning on makeup and hair. She'd learnt, too, that she would never have been happy with a man like her sister's stuffy husband, and she'd have hated the obligation to engage in as much socializing as Carol and Mitch did. Since childhood, Leslie had been cursed with extreme shyness around strangers. There was, Leslie realised, only one aspect of Carol's life she still sometimes longed to emulate: the part that involved children. Carol had raised two: a beautiful, talented, intelligent girl set to enter her senior year in high school, and a handsome boy heading off to an Ivy League college with both academic and athletic scholarships in his pocket. Well aware of the futility of daydreaming about what she could not have, Leslie broke off her reverie and cast a wary eye in her sister's direction. She was just in time to see Carol run a finger across the top shelf of one of the 5 tall bookcases that dominated the living room. She made a face at the streak she left in the layer of dust, then moved on to stand in front of Leslie's desk and glare at her computer. A moment later, Carol's scornful gaze shifted from the compact notebook computer to its owner. "You ought to get rid of this thing, Les. I swear you've turned into a hermit since you bought it." Leslie didn't bother to remind her sister that she'd always been a bit of a recluse. "The internet is a great place to meet people," she said. Instead, here's the next section. An idea popped into his head. He tried to shake it, but it stuck, and the feeling built that he should yield to any impulse that was so strong. In the end, he gave in and sent the message. "How do you feel about acquiring an instant family?" As soon as the email was gone, he had second thoughts. He tried to send a follow-up, but discovered he'd been disconnected. Then he couldn't log back onto the internet. All the lines were busy. By the time he got through again, Leslie's answer was waiting for him. "Is that a proposal?" she asked. He hesitated, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. Now that the subject had been broached, now that his initial shock at even considering it had worn off, marriage sounded like a damned fine idea. A 2-parent household would provide greater stability for the kids, and he and Leslie seemed to be compatible. He knew she wasn't altogether happy with her job. That probably meant she wouldn't mind giving it up to move to Fallstown. Chase abruptly moved away from the desk. Was he crazy? He didn't even know the sound of her voice or what she looked like. They might be wildly incompatible on a physical level. He tried to tell himself that appearance shouldn't matter, but he knew damned well it did. They might not be talking about falling in love, but if he was going to marry someone, he sure intended to enjoy all the benefits of being a husband. That meant they needed to meet before they decided anything. Even if this would be a marriage of convenience? No, that wasn't right. More like one of those mail order deals. He started to send a simple dinner invitation, thinking they could meet on neutral ground. But once more, Chase found himself yielding to impulse. As he typed, he couldn't control his grin any more than he could edit the wording that popped into his head and came out through his fingertips. Before he could change his mind, he transmitted the message. "Yes, this is a proposal," he'd written. "Will you be my email order bride?" Chase leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. The die was cast. His fate was in her hands. Unable to sit still, he stood and started to pace. They'd meet. If they liked each other in person and Leslie agreed to marry him, they could tie the knot right away. All it took was a few minutes in front of the notary. They could start working together to redecorate the house. He figured they'd have at least a couple of days alone before Jeremy and Calico were due to return and move in with them. Stopping stock still in the middle of the room, Chase shook his head to try to clear it. Maybe he was crazy. Even assuming Leslie agreed, that was no way to start a marriage. But this wouldn't be a traditional marriage, he argued with himself. And besides, Leslie might turn him down. Chase and Leslie were an internet couple, which in those days was rare. Nowadays, not so much, with the apps and websites to help with that. But I was talking about Chase and Leslie. They have their problems, as any couple does, but Kathy Lynn Emerson deals with them brilliantly. Chase's nephew and niece are what I would call normal for their situation. All in all, it was a lovely story. I've put a link below to another of Kathy Lynn Emerson's titles. Check it out. As always, Hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed the video. Hit the notification bell and smash the like button. And if you want to say hi, please leave a comment. Thank you very much for watching this video.